So you're thinking about moving to Mission Viejo, California, which a lot of people think of as a suburb of Irvine. A lot of people come to this channel because they're talking about Irvine. So in this video, we're going to give you everything that you need to know about moving to Mission Viejo. You're going to want to get out a pen and a piece of paper because we're going to talk about things like cost of living. We're going to talk about roads. We're going to talk about location. We're going to talk about schools. We're going to talk about crime and safety. We're going to talk about all the things that go into deciding where do you want to live, because you don't want to make that mistake of moving to the wrong place. That's going to cost you a lot of time, money, and personal anguish. So let's get started. Okay, so here we are in Orange County, and obviously, you know, a lot of people call us for Irvine. We said in the beginning that we would be comparing Mission Viejo to Irvine a little bit, and I know some people get tired of us always talking about Irvine, but that's just because Irvine's always in the news. People always call Sean for Irvine. You know, Irvine gets all the hype. So we're going to just, you know, talk about Irvine a little bit and how Mission Viejo compares, and I guess you want to just geographically show.
Sure.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, as we know, like, so we don't harp on Irvine just because, right? We harp on Irvine because you guys want us to harp on Irvine. So Irvine obviously is awesome. It's geographic center, job center, everything, blah, blah, blah.
Of Orange County.
Of Orange County, yes.
Yeah.
That's true. And then, but, like, you know, like obviously if you go just down the road just a little bit to Mission Viejo, again, not that far. It's only like a couple inches, really. Like, it's really close.
Yeah.
So it's just, if you go down the road a bit, then you have Mission Viejo, which, like, there's, I mean, I don't want to, like I say, it's like Irvine. There's, like, a lot of, it's its own thing for sure, but it has a lot of qualities that people like about Irvine.
Yeah, so one of the things that people like about Irvine is, you know, all the well-manicured master plan communities. Mission Viejo definitely has a lot of that, definitely has a lot of parks. And then do you want to just kind of give, like, the lay of the land, like the different parts of Mission Viejo? Yeah,
like I would say, okay, so you have, and Mission Viejo is interesting because, so part of it is really convenient access, and part of it isn't as much. I mean, we're being real about this, right? So, so for instance, the 5 freeway is one of the major freeways in all of Southern California. Honestly, throughout the entire West Coast, the 5 freeway runs from the Mexican border all the way up to the Canadian border. So this is a massive freeway. And like, so a good amount of, so Mission Viejo border, like, you know, it runs like right next to Mission Viejo. Yeah. So the parts around here are obviously rather convenient. And then you have, what you have here is the shops at Mission Viejo, which is a pretty good sized mall. I mean, obviously it's not as big as the Spectrum, which is about 10-ish.
The Spectrum is in Irvine, if you've never heard of it.
Yeah, so it's about 10-ish minutes down the road, right? So it's not super far away, but it's nice that you have a like shopping center right here as well, like a pretty good sized one. They have like your Nordstrom, Macy's, that kind of stuff. So it's an indoor shopping mall. And then on top of that, you have Saddleback College down south, which is one of the highly rated junior colleges in the country. Really, it's like the top 1 or 2% in the country. So before we continue, let's introduce ourselves. So I'm Sean Azad.
And I'm Courtney Azad, and we are licensed real estate agents here in the state of California.
And if you're watching this channel, you might be thinking, wow, Sean, I love Orange County. I love the beaches. I love the incredible weather. I can't wait to move out here now. The problem is that I may not be local. I may be out of state and maybe even out of the country. So I don't know what to do. And I totally get that. That's why you want to reach out to us, because we can have that conversation, finding out specifically what you're looking for. And I work with a team, so we're always available for you to actually tour a lot of these properties, like not only the home itself, but the neighborhood, so you get a feel of what's going on in the area. And so that way, when you come out here, your time is spent really efficient because we narrow down those homes to the perfect property for you. So what you want to do is you want to give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us, or you can use WhatsApp if you're outside the country.
And then as you kind of go farther up, so like one of these major spots is Lake Mission Viejo. This is a pretty cool lake, I must say. It's a man-made lake, but it's not a glorified pond like some of the other places we've mentioned before. Lake Forest. So basically, what we have in Lake Mission Viejo is that you actually have homes that are on the water. It's really cool. Let me see if it's almost like worth doing a satellite image of it, because it's good size. So you actually can fish here, which is fascinating. So they have fishing here. You can have boats, not big boats, obviously. It's not like a massive, massive lake, but you do have beaches here too. So as you're looking close, so you can see there's like, you have a couple beaches around here. And this is for the residents that are in this zone for Mission Viejo. So this is its own association. Like the actual lake part is very minimal. Like it's like, I don't know, like about $25 per month. It's nothing much, but it grants you access to the lake, which is really cool for the homeowners and their guests, right, as far as that goes.
So just to be clear, to make sure that you understand, not everyone can go to Mission Viejo. It's actually got a fence, Lake Mission Viejo. It's actually got a fence around it.
Kept us out.
Yeah, kept us out. So it's guard gated, right? And you can only go if you are a resident of Mission Viejo. So that's, sometimes people have that question.
Yeah, and actually, so these homes here, they can have like little docks. Like actually, you have a couple of condominium townhome developments that have some docks as well. And these homes that are on the water are not cheap. Like these are, running a few $1,000,000. I mean, we're not like, this is no joke. So you have homes that are on the water. You also have properties that actually have like lake views, which is really nice because again, it is a nice sized lake. In fact, you did a triathlon, and this is where you swam for the race, basically.
Yeah. So if you actually want a tour of this lake, well, not just this lake, but all of Mission Viejo, where you actually want to see it. So on our channel, this is our channel, there is a playlist where we have the vlog tours that we've done, and if you go down, you can see that we did one fairly recently of Mission Viejo. So yeah, here you can see Sean's nice drone shots of the lake, right? So so yes, and then we just go through, the whole city, not the whole city, but we kind of just show you if you actually want to see the pictures of what Sean is talking about.
Yeah, because the map only tells you so much, but this kind of just gives you, again, a general lay of the land. And so this is a pretty big feature within Mission Viejo itself, and does extend beyond all the way up to the 241 freeway. And again, as you get further out there, you're definitely several miles from, like, let's say the 5 freeway. Again, the 241 is a toll road. Yeah. So as a general rule, we don't really like toll roads. It's of course, that's becoming more and more of a thing. That's just the reality of what's going on here.
Yeah, but I refuse to use it unless I absolutely have to.
I mean, but if you were over here, it'd be really tough not to.
It would. And I guess, I remember someone like a long time ago commented that he really loved the 241 and that we didn't know, how good it was. And I'm like, well, then you're obviously not from Southern California.
Yeah, again, and you're probably right. I mean, I'm sure you're really right, whoever that was, because it is true. Yeah. If you don't have that issue with tolls, it's
or if
amazing.
You're fine paying for it. Like for us, I'm like, that is not something that I will be doing unless I absolutely have to. Like I'm late for a very important meeting.
In general, it's just one of those things just to be aware of. And then also in Mission Viejo, you have a wide variety. It's a more mature area as far as...
Sorry, just to reiterate, like I would just, if it were me, I would be driving there if my house were here just to like prove a point, being like, I am not using this.
Until you'd have to.
Until I have to.
But yeah,
those aren't cheap.
And these are major arteries too. So like we want to kind of illustrate that. These are like, again, 8-10 lane roads. I mean, these are no joke, right? So these will get you pretty straight shot. But again, being real, it's still like a few miles and several miles, and you're just several miles off the freeway. Again, just being real about it, right? So that's...
And then do you want to just talk also, like, the farther east you get, it gets a lot hotter. Like, of course, we're comparing to Irvine, so it's the same as Irvine, honestly. I mean, Mission Viejo is a good, like, 10 degrees hotter in the summer than the coast. Not Irvine. Like, I'd say it's pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah, I would say so, in general. Yeah, I would say so for sure. I mean, again, it's just more, out of the way. I mean, if there's a con about it, it's further away. Yes. Because obviously most of the stuff is going northbound, right? I mean, if you're going to the major employment centers and that kind of thing, you're going to Irvine, you're going to Newport Beach, you're going to Anaheim, and that's all...
You want to show where those are.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah. So, the major employment centers. So, we are going to talk about, the actual cost of living in Mission Viejo, which is less than Irvine. And that's largely because of its location, right? You are driving longer to go to the major employment centers, and then especially, obviously, you're farther away from Los Angeles as well. So.
Yeah, so again, if you're doing stuff in Los Angeles, just be aware that it is further out there. So again, maybe you have a hybrid work situation or whatever that might be, but just be aware that there's a criticism, because Mission Viejo itself is actually really a good value.
Yeah, do you want to just talk about it then?
I guess,
let's go to the...
segue.
So this is the median sales price of Mission Viejo, and we'll compare it to Orange County and Irvine. And median means the middle. It's not the average. Average can be very skewed.
And this is all home types. So this is townhomes, like condos, and single-family residences. So the median price point is just over $1 million, right? Mm-hmm. Which again, for a lot of the country, that is really expensive. But again, for Orange County, it's actually rather reasonable. So it's actually below the median sales price in Orange County itself by about 10% almost. So that's no joke, especially because Mission Viejo, people really like it.
It is. It's really nice. Like it's honestly a really nice city.
Yeah, so people really like it.
You want to compare to Irvine?
Yeah, so
too?
from a value perspective, it's fantastic. And then if you're looking at Irvine, you're talking about almost 40% more for the same type of property, right? That's a huge difference. Yeah. And again, I get it. Irvine is kind of where, like, again, that just has a notoriety. It has a location. It is a little bit more conveniently located. But Mission Viejo isn't like ridiculously out of the way. It's just that it is further out of the way, right? I mean, it just that is the reality of it. Yeah. So but from a value perspective, Mission Viejo is fantastic because people, again, we hear from residents all the time there, and they love Mission Viejo. And again, I totally get it. It is an awesome city.
Yeah, and then just to kind of show you what kind of an awesome city it is, here's niche.com. They're rating Mission Viejo. They're rating it with an A, giving it, it's a very nice place to live. It's got an A, and I would agree with that. I think it's a very nice place to live. And then, some of the things that it's highlighting is suburbs with best public schools in California, places with best public schools. It's the same thing. Best suburbs to raise a family. And if you are considering schools, so Mission Viejo actually is part of two. So it depends on where you're zoned for. So that's why you got to reach out to us. But so it's part of two different school districts. Capistrano, which niche.com gives an A+, and then Saddleback, which niche.com gives an A. And then what's nice is that you can go to this map down here and it will show you, all the different schools and how they're rated. And then you can do the same thing for Capistrano, all the different schools and how they're rated. And what's really nice about Saddleback and Capistrano is that it has a lot of schools that are pretty much just charter schools. So you do have to lottery into them, but they give you a special program, like whether, maybe you're interested in like the Reggio philosophy. So there's a school that offers that. Maybe you're interested in language immersion. So there's Spanish immersion and Mandarin immersion in Capistrano. So, you just have a lot of different options when you're in this area. So you don't necessarily have to go to the school that you're zoned for. Of course, obviously, you should do your own research before you just like assume that you're going to be getting into a school.
Yeah, exactly. And also, even though they have these ratings and stuff like that, really it's about you doing your due diligence, right? Like contacting the school administrator or the principal, talking, like you said, to some Facebook group, talking to parents in Facebook groups, just to kind of get a sense of what that school has to offer. Because we know of schools that are like rated 7 out of 10, but like depending on the program that you're in within that school, it could be, equivalent of 10 out of 10. And then the other part of the school is more like a 5 out of 10. So it's all over the place. That's where, again, depending on where you want your child to focus on, if this is kind of if you have a family, then you just do your own due diligence, really dig in to make sure that it makes sense for you.
Yeah, and so then this list just came out, like OC schools rank among the nation's best in latest USD's report. This is for high schools, but I'm pretty sure a couple that are in Capo got on as well as Saddleback. Okay, so Tesoro, that is actually pretty much in Mission Viejo.
Yeah, it's right next to that. It's like kind of on the border of Coto, Mission Viejo, Ladera Ranch.
Yeah, so... And then Laguna Hills High School, so that's in Saddleback. So, I mean, these are just some of the top in the nation. So we always like to say that, no matter where you are in Orange County, I know Irvine gets all the hype because it's in the news and, it's got a really, really famous school district. But we always like to say, you've got options truly whatever city you live in. It does not matter. Like, you have options for good schools. Like, that is, Orange County, it has very, very highly ranked schools. Of course, maybe not every school is highly ranked, but you do have options.
And as general characteristic of Mission Viejo, what you do have is that actually, unlike Irvine, there actually is a decent amount of houses that don't have as many HOAs.
Yeah, that's true.
So... I mean, and they tend to be on the older side. Like, a lot of Mission Viejo was developed starting, like, really in the 1970s on up. And they, again, a lot of it hasn't been built post-2000, right? So you kind of have that swath, that span of time between the 1970s to about 2000 where a lot of this development took place in general. And then you do have, like we were mentioning about the lake, is that you have some homes, actually a listing where you had some homes that were like in the vicinity of that, in the area of the lake where they weren't in an HOA, but they could opt in to the lake HOA so they could have access to the lake. And again, that was about $25 or so per month. So it was kind of, really minor HOA from that perspective. So people really appreciate that. Now, of course, if you're in a condo or townhome, you're going to have an HOA. That's because you have shared walls and all that stuff.
Yeah. And then if you want to just talk about general cost of living, what's interesting about California, obviously California is known for being insanely high price cost of living. And look, so regular is 100, right? So
this is on the US, like
this is bestplaces.net. Yeah. So this is average. California, so Mission Viejo is significantly more than average for California. But if you actually look at the things, like groceries, health, I'm passing by this.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Utilities, and not to say that energy is cheap. It's just that you don't really have to use it that much. Although I will say that in the summer in Mission Viejo, you will have
the air conditioner going.
Yeah, and then do you want to talk about if you have an older home, the air conditioning unit may not be as efficient?
Yeah, it's one of those things that obviously when you're doing a home inspection, again, that's where we kind of, when we're having that conversation and where we're zeroing on a property, we'll be be very mindful of what that home inspection yields, because you have things certainly like the HVAC system, so the heater and air conditioner system. If these properties were built in the 1970s, they may have changed it once. Maybe I've seen them where they have the original in there, or and so when you're dealing with that, the older unit, one, obviously it's closer to end of life, and as well it's less efficient. So those electric bills can be pretty pricey if you're not careful.
Yeah, and then so obviously the cost is coming from here, right? I mean, the housing price is where all of that is making this to be $170. So that's just something to know. So here we are back on niche.com where it's saying Mission Viejo has an A, it's a nice place to live, and best suburbs to raise a family. One thing that Mission Viejo is known for, kind of famous for, is that it has really, really competitive sports leagues, youth sports leagues.
Yeah, we crank out Olympians and stuff here.
Yes, Mission Viejo definitely is known for that, and we've talked about that on our channel. Not to say that you can't do rec league and stuff. It's just that, hey, if you're gonna go club in Mission Viejo, whatever sport you're doing,
get ready
for some commitment.
And we're obviously again, you have that ability to push your kid pretty hard, as far as they can go pretty far as far as the competitiveness in sports. Yeah. Of course, if your kid's not ready for it, there's ways to kind of dip their toe in the water.
Well, it's actually, so we were talking to a friend about it the other day, and he was like, yeah, because speaking to me and Sean, he's like, you guys were raised in Southern California, so you're raised in that culture of youth sports, and you guys train your kids from a very early age. And I was like, yeah, that actually is true. I guess it's just the culture that you just, I secretly train my kids on making them more physically fit and, ready for their sports. But not in a crazy way. I just do it in a fun way.
So she says.
I secretly train them. And a lot of other parents do too. Okay, and then you want to talk about crime and safety. So obviously, this is something that is everyone's different. What I think is safe isn't necessarily what you think is safe. Sean's mom is a perfect example. What she will say, oh, that's not safe. I'm like, are you crazy? I'm not saying the same thing as you, but everything is different. Everybody's different, right?
Yeah, but if you look at all the metrics, it's just way below the national average, right? So it's just one of those things. I mean, way below. Yeah. These are actually pretty impressive numbers. But having said that, that's such a subjective thing, and so that's why when people ask me, okay, I want to go somewhere safe, I can't really even answer that for you, because what I think is safe and what you may think is safe is totally different. What I do recommend is that if you're zeroing in on certain neighborhoods, what you want to do is actually go to those places different times of the day, different times of the evening, really get a feel of how it is and how you feel about it, and then on top of that, of course, do some further digging, to see if there's any extra data, because that is such a subjective thing, depending on what you think is safe or what we do. Yeah,
and then obviously if you are interested, I know there's a lot of people that call Sean and they are interested in gated. I mean, obviously that's something that you can discuss with Sean when
Yeah,
you do have a Zoom call with
And
him.
Mission Viejo does have some gated communities,
Yeah.
of course, as well.
For sure.
And remember, we are licensed realtors here in the state of California. So as much as we love making these videos, what we love more is to help you with your real estate needs. So whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, what you want to do is when you give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us, or you can use WhatsApp if you're outside the country.